All right, guys, one of the things I want to clear up is the Telnet SSH relationship. Remember, they're both ways to remote into the ASA. But Telnet has a password, but it's in clear text, where SSH is more secure. Now, typically, you're going to be a consultant or something like that, and you're probably going to be accessing the ASA through the outside interface, which obviously is going to be unsecure. So most of the time, we set up an SSH connection to the firewall. So let me walk you through that real quick. Configuration, device management down here. Now the first thing you do, you have to have a certificate. So we go in here, we're going to make a new one, so hit add. Now you can either import it from a file or make a new one. I'm going to make a new one. And for my key pair, I'm just going to use a phrase, spank me. And you can pick the size and hit generate now. Oh, so that one already exists. Dope. I must have made that earlier. So there's my key pair, and I can generate the self-certificate, and I can add the certificate now. So I now have a certificate that's in there that I can share with other people. Now I want to go here under Management Access, and I can hit Add, and I'm going to add SSH to the inside interface, and what IP address I want to connect to, which is going to be that one. Obviously, you would have your outside interface IP address or whatever you want to use. I'm just doing this one just for the heck of it. Oh, it hates me. So we'll just do all ones on that interface. Now, so that just means that it has to match this exactly. You're not putting in a network number here. All right, so you can set your different versions of SSH. Do I want 1 and 2, or do I want just 1 or 2? The timeout, so if somebody's idle, when does it kick them out? Things like that. The default port number meant for SSH is 443. You can change that and then have a different port number on your firewall open as well, but you get the idea. So now we're set up to accept SSH connections. After I hit apply, then it would send it to the interface or to the ASA, which I'm not going to do in this time. All right, now in your book, there's also pages 109 to 140. And pages 109 to 140 talk about logging, a lot of information about logging. The very first, like 109, talks about disabling the password reset option. We are not going to be doing that in class, but obviously if you're setting up one for a customer, typically your customer has their firewall in a secure area. Now obviously if they don't and there's a threat of somebody gaining access to it, then somebody could reset the password. You would want to add that procedure on 109. But we are not going to be screwing with that, because once you set that up, it becomes a whole new ball game trying to get back into the router if somebody forgets their password. So just be careful about your security. Remember, there's a fine line between security and usability. You can lock these suckers down super tight so nobody can get in, but then when there's an issue, it's also harder for you to fix that and get in and do other things. So then it goes on to talk about logging. Now you can log a ton of features, and again, there's 30 pages of logging information in that chapter. We're not going to cover that now. If we got time near the end of the semester, we'll start talking about logging, and I'll have you guys go through that stuff. But typically, logging is one of the most boring aspects, obviously, because then you're going through logs trying to look to see different things that happen. And two, it's not something that your beginning firewall guy does. Typically, you've got a more experienced guy that checks through logs to find things that have happened, and you've got a more experienced guy that kind of sets up the logging, what he wants to log, because it depends on your industry. Hey, what kind of attack do I think I'm going to be susceptible to? What information are people going to get? I need to turn logging on for that stuff. Or what am I going to be running on my firewall? If I'm going to be running VPNs and SSH, stuff like that, I might want to log that kind of activity as well. But typically, it's not the junior guy that does logging information or checks log files. It's somebody that's more senior and has more experience, because obviously they want to find obviously issues. It's not like backup tapes, if that helps. All right, the chapter also covers IP6. For this semester, I don't have my slides for IP6. I left them in class, so I will cover those in class. But for any other chapter, I'll record that IP6 presentation as a separate presentation here and listed in the chapter. So that wraps up Chapter 3. For your class session for Chapter 3, I'm going to have you guys set up the ASA through the command line, and then I'm going to have you set it up through the ASDM. We're going to activate a couple features and go from there. So if you have any questions, make sure you bring them up in class, read Chapter 3, let me know what questions you have so we can cover those and you guys can get your money's worth out of class. Thanks, guys.